Welcome to Stop My Crisis. I'm your host, Vivian Gaspar, and we're here today to help every single one of you because I dare say there's probably not a human being who doesn't have fear. Fear is something. What is your fear? And remember the old adage, the number one fear is really the fear of public speaking. The number two fear is the fear of dying. And what do they say that's really unfortunately true is you'd probably rather be in the casket than giving the eulogy. So let's face these fears and set free the limits on your life. I'm so fortunate to have with us here today Kalliope Barlis. She is a best-selling author of 3 books, and she is recognized as an expert in personal development and peak performance strategies. Kalliope has helped thousands of people become better spouses, parents, and successful people. She went from pro golfer to doctor of acupuncture and now phobia relief expert. Welcome, Kalliope.
Thank you so much, Vivian, for having me.
So tell us, when Gallup has been asked, 51% of Americans admitted to being afraid of snakes. But according to the National Institute of Health, 499 people out of 500 who were bit by venomous snakes will actually survive. So what are they afraid of? Tell us why.
So that doesn't really make any sense, does it, right?
Not to me. I'm looking at statistics and probabilities.
Right, that's right. And so the likelihood of surviving is greater than anything. And so what happens with a fear of a snake, let's say, most of the time, is that it's a great big picture moving in towards the person. And we really don't care about who, what, where, and when it all started. It just matters how they're thinking about it. And once we realize how they're thinking about it, we can change it.
So are there any very common fears that you find as a thread when you've helped so many people?
Well, funnily, a lot of fear of clowns lately.
Really?
Yeah, believe it or not.
So the circuses have seen downtick in revenue, right?
Some of them have, indeed. And even for Halloween, this past Halloween, there were a lot of bands. People couldn't play.
Dress up as a clown?
Dress up as a clown.
Wow.
Yeah, as if, and the ban ended on November 1st.
That's crazy.
Isn't that
the
odd?
day after Halloween?
Right.
What a shock.
Exactly. And you sort of wonder, okay, so what happens on November 1st that we put the ban on clowns again? Or take away the bans on clowns.
Maybe they all of a sudden have this fear eliminated because they all met with you first.
Well, could be. And some of the people who came in with the clown phobia, they had seen these movies with clowns who did strange things. And that's what put the pictures in their head.
It reminds you of Stephen King, right?
Well, that's right. In fact, it was that one movie called It, based on his novel, right, that has brought in a lot of people into my office. And probably the worst case scenario was when one of my clients was a mom and she actually left her child unattended in Times Square after seeing a clown.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you can imagine how terrible she felt about it.
Wow.
So
this can be real. So eliminating fears can actually prevent crisis, because I can't imagine a mother doing that. I'm a mother.
And she couldn't imagine herself doing that, really.
That's incredible.
Until it happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
I hope there was no tragic outcome there.
Fortunately not.
Thank God.
Baby's okay, everything's all right.
Oh, thank God.
But it led her to a point where she said no more.
Wow.
And so that's when she came in to see me. And within a half hour, we took care of the fear, and she dressed up like a clown, regardless of the ban.
So, other than clowns, what else is something that's common? A fear of flying, a fear of heights? Forget the snakes. How often in New Jersey or in this vicinity, this tri-state area, do we really encounter snakes anyhow, especially a venomous one?
That's right. In fact, most of the venomous snakes are in Australia. Not as many.
Well, unless you plan on traveling to Australia, it's not a big deal.
That's right. That's right. And so, lots of people fear dogs, spiders.
Really? Dogs? That's common.
Yeah.
I don't know how much percentage of dog owners there are, but I am.
That's right.
And everyone I know is.
That's right. And, most of the time it happens, it starts when they're kids.
Oh.
And it could be a little chihuahua even barking in their face, and suddenly they get very, very scared. And as you probably know, when a child is a child, everything is big. And so it remains big when they become an adult. And so what I do is just shrink down the size of the image of the dog inside their minds and blink it black and white. And what that does is just change the thought process.
So there's neuro-linguistic training in there somewhere? Or does any of that come into play?
Well, most of the skills I use are based on NLP, are NLP skills.
NLP, just for those who don't know, what does that stand for, please?
It stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming.
Just want to clarify. I've heard of it, but I wasn't quite sure everyone has known that acronym.
Yeah, and it's just basically a series of skills that are very quick and easy, and actually that's one of the things that makes them so hard to believe is that they're so easy and quick.
So I know a lot of people, for example, the number one fear, is that really still public speaking?
It is.
So, but don't a lot of people's occupations rely on public speaking? For example, if you're an executive, you have to give a speech to the board of trustees, or to perhaps you're in sales and you have to do an educational seminar. There's so many occupations, I believe, that rely on the ability to give a public speaking engagement. If they're too afraid to do it, can't that hold someone back in their ability to earn an income?
It's true, and people have even quit their jobs because they knew that they would have to do some public speaking.
Really?
At one of the board meetings.
Well, wouldn't it make so much more sense to see you and get that fear eliminated completely?
It would.
Wow.
Because there is hope.
So, also, I'm thinking about it. When you go through college, and a lot of people now go for higher degrees, such as masters or doctorates, right? When you're going through college classes, you have a lot of situations where you have to give a public speaking engagement there to the class, or forget college, even in high school. So how do you get through that? Because I would think you'd want to tackle that because it can prevent you from achieving in life.
It sure can. And one of the easiest things to do is imagine people being totally interested in what you're saying.
They're hanging on your every word.
That's right. That they love hearing you, listening to what it is that you have to say that's so intriguing to them. Because most of the time, when people fear public speaking, it's because they see people bored of them.
I've given hundreds, if not thousands, of public speaking engagements myself as a keynote. I've spoken about foreclosure, and I actually wonder, if someone were afraid of speaking, thank goodness I'm not, what should someone do? Because I really want to address what's so common, and we want to help people go forward in life, not be held back. Can you think of another strategy you could share to help people in general?
Absolutely. If, for instance, they get their family members to sit on the couch, stand in front of them, and actually just stand there practicing and ask their family members, so is this interesting? So that they at least get the feedback that, yes, you are very interesting, you're engaging me. And also, if they story tell, if they use stories to actually do whatever it is that they want to get across, the more intrigued the audience will be.
I'm intrigued in what you're saying, and if there was 50 of me, I think we would all be equally intrigued. The point that you're trying to make, I believe, is if you practice, you also eliminate your fear. Perhaps your family members, instead of sitting on sofas, maybe there's a garage or some space where you could line up chairs as like an audience would be, right?
That's right.
And so make it more realistic for what they would encounter in real life.
That's right.
So we have to wrap up now. Can you give one quick little additional takeaway?
That if anyone has any fears, that there's definitely hope. Because you can always control how it is that you think about something. And as Dr. Bandler says, when you change how you think, it changes how you feel, which then changes how you do things.
Kalliope, I appreciate you coming to educate all of us on addressing and overcoming your fears and phobias. Simply put, here at Stop My Crisis, we need to not just stop it, mitigate it, but overcome it and move beyond. And if you have a fear that's bothering you, tell me, how are you serving your family, your children, yourself, and maybe you have dependent parents. A lot of generational sandwich people exist. They have small kids to take care of, and they have elderly parents. But if you can't truly make the most of your life, you're not helping anyone. Attack those phobias and fears, and now blossom further in your life. Welcome to Stop My Crisis. And here with me today, I have Jim Cullum. Jim has been a certified professional consulting hypnotist for over 32 years. He has lectured and given workshops around the country and worked with clients nationwide on a variety of issues. Jim, thank you so much, because I'm always one to desiring and debunking myths and misconceptions, and I think hypnosis is wrought with misconception. So tell me something that goes along those lines.
Well, interestingly enough, years ago, Lucille Ball, filming the Lucy Show, went to a nightclub as part of the skit they were enacting, and Pat Collins, a very famous female hypnotist from back in the day, was the hypnotist there, and Lucy was supposed to, after she was hypnotized, reply with the phrase, "My name is Lucille McGillicuddy, and I work for the First National Bank." And they didn't know that she was a deep hypnotic subject, and when Pat Collins did this very rapid induction, she was actually hypnotized. So when they asked her name and her occupation, instead of following the script, she said, "My name is Lucille Ball, and I own this goddamn studio."
I didn't know she was also the owner. I thought she was just the actress, but she must have been authentically hypnotized.
She was.
Does it take much to be hypnotized that easily? What does that say about a person?
Well, there's only a small percentage of people who can be hypnotized that deeply, that fast. They're called somnambules.
Oh, there's a word for that.
Yes, it's a very deep trance that you go into very quickly. In fact, my wife happens to be a somnambule.
Does that help you in relationship with your wife? Is that a good trick? Anytime she's still saying, or you don't want her to do something, it's, let's go.
No, it really doesn't work like that. I've been married for a long time, and you can't make anybody do something they don't want to do under hypnosis.
That is good to know. So there's really no one walking around clucking like a chicken, right?
Only in a stage show, and they're having a great time doing it. They're the center of attention. They're having fun. They're there to entertain, and that's just what they do.
So what can hypnosis really do? What is the benefits? Hypnosis is a natural state that each of us experiences every day. So tell me, how does that really benefit people?
Well, when you're experiencing the natural hypnosis that we go through every day, you don't realize it at the time. It's something that it just happens dozens of times every day. The two-word definition is focused concentration. When you focus all your attention on one thing and you block out all the distraction, you are in a state of hypnosis.
Give me a good example of that.
You're driving your car, you're going to a familiar destination, your mind's on a thought. What you're having for dinner later tonight, you're taking a trip on the weekend, you're thinking about the trip, and all of a sudden you'll arrive at that destination and you'll say, wow, I don't remember driving the last half a mile.
I actually did that about 20 years ago. Somehow I was trying to get from Queens across the GWB, and next thing you know, I end up in Yonkers.
But you got there safely.
I did. I ended up driving very safely, and I was so surprised. I had no idea how I did that. So I know exactly what you're talking about. And hypnosis is much more than weight control and stopping smoking, as I understand. What else can you do and accomplish with hypnosis? Can you give me a very interesting example of that, please?
Sure. I've helped people study for examinations. I've had lawyers who passed the bar exam. I've worked with pain control. I've worked with sports hypnosis, people playing better golf and tennis and any sport, actually, because they learn to do self-hypnosis and a rehearsal technique that we teach them.
So wait a second, let's back up for a second. You said pain control? So do you mean that if someone gets hypnosis, perhaps they have chronic pain, or what if they learn to do self-hypnosis? Of course, you teach that as well. And I don't know, let's say you have to get a dental visit taken care of. Can it help with that or something more serious?
Yes, it can. When we work with medical hypnosis, there's only one requirement. We have to have written permission from the physician. Now, if you're with the dentist, there's your permission right there. That's easy. Any other case that somebody would come to me for, I need written referral from the doctor, but I will teach the patient self-hypnosis and different techniques they can use for the pain situation. They can go home and practice and help to alleviate the pain when it happens.
Do you have any really extreme cases? I mean, hypnosis, as you had mentioned previously, has been around for a long, long time. Could you have anything else that might be practical now that someone's done with hypnosis? Perhaps something you may not have thought is logical that for most people, but for you, it's something that may have occurred with one of your clients?
Well, actually, I had a student come in to see me, a 15-year-old boy. He came in for the study and recall program. And when he came in, I taught him how to do the self-hypnosis. His mother called me a few months later that he passed his exams very well. She was very happy. And a few months after that, I received another phone call from him. He had been in the hospital, and he called me to thank me, and I was totally surprised. He said I helped save his life, and that really blew me away. When I called him back to find out what happened, he said he was out riding his bicycle and he was hit by a car.
Oh my gosh.
And he had a severe injury. He was cut up underneath his right arm, and he had a lot of bleeding, and he was so afraid as he was lying there in the street as the police and the fire department arrived. He said, I hypnotized myself just like you taught me, and I went to my special place where I felt safe and I felt comfortable, and I stayed there. And when I went to the hospital, they had to do surgery to stop the bleeding. And the surgeon told him later, after the surgery, that he didn't know what the boy did, but if you were not able to relax as profoundly as you relaxed, you might have bled out before you came in.
He literally could have bled to death if he had not already learned self-hypnosis from you?
Exactly.
That is completely amazing and dumbfounded. I was so shocked to hear you say that. So what actually can be a more practical day-to-day application? So what is something that's very common? And again, I want to stay away from the weight loss and the smoking, stop smoking. So give me another example that an adult or someone that you wouldn't think of. For example, I have a daughter who stutters. Can that be helped with hypnosis?
Hypnosis is a good tool to use for stuttering. There's techniques that we use, and we teach the stutterer to do self-hypnosis as well, and it helps to calm them down and enunciate clearly and speak clearly with confidence.
So I understand that you have other instances that perhaps somewhere in history you had mentioned that this could be applicable. This is something that we hear and run about it today. There's a lot of people who are skeptical, but how long has actually hypnosis been in use for medical purposes? This is really phenomenal to me that it can help with bleeding. That's shocking to me.
Well, actually, hypnosis has been around for thousands of years.
Thousands of years.
It was mentioned in the Bible.
Really?
Yes, not by word. Hypnosis itself, the word was not coined until the 1800s by James Braid, a physician. But I think it's Genesis 22, 21, somewhere in there.
Is that the Old Testament or the New Testament?
The Old Testament.
Just checking.
And God came down to earth and put Adam in a sleep-like state and painlessly removed a rib from his body to create Eve.
Oh, that was hypnosis then?
Well, that's what surgical hypnosis is. And this same doctor, James Braid, in the 1800s did over 300 limb amputations using hypnosis for the anesthesia.
What was the cause of doing all these amputations? Is it the war?
It was the war, yes.
The Civil War?
No, in India. The war's in India.
Oh, I see. That's amazing. So, but in today, right now we're heading into 2017. So nowadays, what type of clients do you see most regularly? What can an average person benefit from hypnosis with you?
Well, I work with so many different things: stress management, people who want to do public speaking.
That's a very common fear. So you help people overcome that fear.
Yes, so they can get in front of the audience, 500 people, 1,000 people, and make their presentation comfortably, feeling good and getting it all out the way they'd like to.
I think a lot of people's occupations may rely on a confident public speaking, even if they're not a public speaker by trade. For example, C-level executives might have to give a lot of speaking engagements, perhaps to their board of trustees. So people don't realize the different professions that need to incorporate public speaking, correct?
Exactly.
And so give us one more example, and we could wrap this up today because I find this really, truly fascinating.
Again, I could write a book about the examples. I had been actually flown out of state to a couple who, they were both physicians. Their daughter had ulcerative colitis so severe that her doctors wanted to remove her entire large intestine.
My goodness.
And give her a permanent colostomy. And I went to their home, and I flew out of state to visit her. I worked with her. I taught her how to do self-hypnosis. I hypnotized her several times that day and came home. I made her a CD. I sent her the CD, and she was using self-hypnosis probably 4 or 5 times every day, as well as using the CD. About 6 months later, I get a call from the family that they just returned from the clinic again, and she no longer needs the surgery, that the ulcers have been healing well, and they were very impressed.
That's amazing. Speaking of surgeries, did you not mention to me recently, right before our interview actually, that you have done emergency last-minute hypnosis to help someone in order to go under for surgery, actually a few times?
Well, yes. It depends. Now, surgery and also dental work or a procedure like a colonoscopy, they're all techniques that we can use with the hypnosis to alleviate the discomfort, the fear. The fear is the big one.
How about, you had mentioned that you were able to lower blood pressure, so they were able to have the surgery
Yes.
that they needed.
I had
Safely.
I had a call from a local hospital one night at about 11 o'clock, and the patient was going to have major surgery the next day, but her blood pressure was through the roof, and they had given her so much medication they can't give anymore because it's called bottoming out, and their pressure will just crash down, and that's a dangerous thing. So they asked me to come in, and I hypnotized her in the room and brought her blood pressure down almost 30 points in about 25 minutes.
That's amazing. So Jim, thank you so much on debunking the vast majority of myths we have surrounding around hypnosis. It's not a theater show. It really truly helps people on day-to-day life struggles and sometimes critically in medical emergencies and situations. Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
Welcome to Stop My Crisis. I'm your host, Vivian Gaspar. And so many times when people are in the midst of crisis, think about your own life, don't you just feel like giving up hope sometimes? I know it sounds hokey. I'm aware of that. But really, if you think about it, a positive attitude is really about having hope. And I thought this is such an important thing after sitting in hundreds and hundreds of families' homes remediating foreclosure. And I've seen such a common thread that I actually wanted to talk about this a little bit with my audience here today. I brought in with me Michelle Nagel. She is America's #1 resilience expert. Think about that. Resilience also incorporates having hope that is so key. We'll find out exactly how much so. She is the author of Suffering is Optional, Out of the Darkness and Into the Light. She is a certified Jack Canfield Success Principles teacher and the president of Soul Shift, Inc. For the past 15 years, she has been conducting seminars and workshops, providing tools to help people overcome their limiting beliefs and live the life of their dreams. Now, how do you live the life of your dream without hope? Think about it. Are you hopeful in your thoughts or negative in your thoughts? So right now, I would really like to say, Michelle, thank you so much to talk about a subject that most people think is just hokey. What is the facts around there? Does it seem to be critical or not? What could you tell us about the reality and the importance of having hope?
Well, positive thinking is, it can actually do so many things for you in so many different ways. It can make your perception of pain 30% less just by having positive thoughts about it. And we're really concerned about how so many people are coming down with Alzheimer's disease. There's a study, a nun study, that is done with 678 nuns in a convent here in the East, actually. And they have studied them that the nuns who have the most positive outlook on life, after they pass away, they've been studying them for 30 years now. So after they pass away, they do the autopsies, and they discover that even the ones who have the Alzheimer plaques on their brain are able to, they didn't manifest as in their lifetime because they were so positive. So even though they actually had the disease, it didn't manifest.
That's amazing. So there's physical correlations behind your thought process.
Yes.
That,
it's
I think,
amazing.
is amazing.
Yeah.
So why does hope matter to a normal, average individual, a middle class, or perhaps even a little bit lower middle class, or upper middle class individual? What does it really matter? The concept. People think that's so Disney or hokey or Hollywood even.
We all know examples of people that we have observed in our lives who are having perhaps a life that we would not choose, and yet they are happy and they're cheerful and they're going through their life and they don't feel all that pain and anguish because they have a positive mental outlook. And we all know people like that.
What can you do to illustrate just one or two more facts about positive thinking that illustrates having hope?
Well, happily married people have higher coping skills than people who are not. And it helps also to have somebody to take care of you when you're ill.
These are just logistical facts, right?
Yeah, it's really miserable to be sick by yourself. It's just having somebody who actually shares that love with you makes all of your ability to get well. It increases all of your immune system. Again, back to the immune system. It helps us be very healthy and well. And also a Dutch study showed that people who were happy had a 77% lower incidence of heart disease.
77% lower heart disease? Those, I don't think, are numbers that anyone can ignore. That's very significant. So what is something easy that an average person could do right now to promote positive thinking in themselves?
Take 100% responsibility for yourself. Don't complain and blame other people for the circumstances that you have in your life. You may not have chosen them, but right this specific second, you can choose to do something about it. You can choose the way you look at them. And having that change in your mindset is going to change your entire life. It really does.
That is a very good point, because it's not about what happens to you or the forces that cause them to happen to you. It's how you react to them, correct?
The response is the only thing that you can control. You may not, my uncle had a tragic accident while he was buying a wedding gift for my aunt. Oh. And it was a tragic accident, but did my aunt respond in a really negative, horrible fashion? She didn't. She celebrated the fact that she had had 60 years with this wonderful man. And her whole affect and attitude towards his passing was that she was grateful for the time that she had spent with him and grateful for their children. And she was a really good example for me because she lived a very, very ripe old age of 98.
Wow, 98!
And she was very happy and very positive at all times.
I think what you're saying is having that positive attitude, perhaps living in a state of gratitude, can even elongate your life, because let's face it, who wouldn't love to live to be 98? That sounds...
Yes, gratitude is always very important. And when you do have the gratitude, everything just goes better. And if you find that your life is kind of challenging and you're struggling, look for the silver lining. It sounds trite and it sounds like it's cliche, but it's really important. And when you look for the silver lining, it again brings the endorphins up, brings you up, makes you happier, and that will help your whole life better.
Listen to Michelle and the other positive people, and it might sound hokey or trite, but it's not. You'll find the shift within yourself if you hold on to just the positive aspects of what you have available to you.